I'd like to share a tip with you, which is probably the simplest and most basic tip you have ever heard and are ever likely to hear. And I'm going to present it in 30 seconds, and you're going to listen to this and you think, duh, really, is that it? And you're going to click off and watch something else. But if this is something you are not doing, I think it would be beneficial to just hang around to hear what I have to say about it. So here's the tip. When you are watching a YouTube channel, or anything else for that matter, such as reading a book, and come across something and you think, oh, that's cool, I should try that, write it down. Yes, I told you this was the simplest and most basic tip ever, but this, believe it or not, is something which I have not been doing for the last umpteen years, really, when I've been watching YouTube videos, and I'm thinking, well, if I haven't been doing it, there must be a lot of other people who are not doing it either. And the reason why you should write stuff down, yes, it's so simple, is because if you don't write it down, you will forget it. So here's a fairly typical scenario which I've been going through for the last umpteen years watching YouTube videos. So I'll be watching a video and hear an idea and I think, oh, that's cool, I really need to try that. And I watch a bit more of the video and there's another idea and another idea. So there might be 2, 3, maybe 4 ideas in this video and I think, that's really great. And then I sort of forget what the first idea is or the second idea. Or maybe I'm so enthused I will go on to watch another video. And so all these ideas, they just get lost. I shall give you 3 examples of this in practice. These things which have happened to me and which have occurred over the last few months. And you will possibly be able to relate to a similar situation. But I shall also tell you why I think it is so important that you do write down things of interest. So what's this thing about writing stuff down? Well, I shall give you 2 examples. The first, of course, it's so obvious. If you write it down, you have an easy reference point. You can refer to it later. You may forget it, but if you have it written down in a ideas notebook, then you can go into your notebook and there it is. Obvious, simples, as they say. The second reason for writing something down is something I heard years and years ago, probably when I was studying for exams. Yes, we used a hammer and chisel to etch writings onto stone tablets back in the day. And the thing that I remember from those times is that if you write something down, you are more likely to remember it. Obviously, a great aid if you are studying for exams. Now, I've no idea if there's any scientific basis for this. I suspect there actually is. So my little theory is that if you hear something, it goes into one part of your brain, but if you then write it down, that sort of goes into a second part of your brain. So your brain has 2 goes at remembering this information. If there are any psychologists or neural scientists in the room, then you could possibly tell me if that is true or not. But I certainly think writing something down helps reinforce the idea, so you are more likely to remember it. Now, in these days of computers, you don't actually have to physically write something on a piece of paper with a pen, heaven forbid. But if you've seen some of my other videos, you know I have an eye condition and I actually can't write anything down, not to a degree that I'd be able to read it again. So for me, that's out. But I am using a notepad on the computer so I can make a note of it. I don't know if that works quite as well as actually physically writing something out, but that is something which I am going to do and I have started doing going forward. If I don't get the benefits from actually moving a pen across a piece of paper, at least I do have a solid reference for any ideas which I find interesting. And of course, the other benefit of using a computer is that if you are watching a video, for example, you can copy the URL and paste that into the document so you can go back to the video again at a later date if you want to. Now, I've never been accused of being the brightest button in the box, so it's just taken me, 10 or 15 years to come up with this idea. Why don't I write these things down? But I do recall watching 3 videos in particular over the last few months, and they contain ideas, and I thought, that's really cool. So I wanted to make a note of them, and so the idea of actually writing stuff down came about. So I'll tell you what these were, probably not in chronological order, but one was talking about pole stretch. Now, I don't know if you've come across this. It's a free program. I shall leave a link to it in the description, and it time stretches audio to an incredible degree, and it's really useful and interesting for creating pads and drones and stuff which just slowly evolves. And you can do this with any piece of audio. It has a lot of amazing controls. Now, it's a standalone program. There are also plugins, and I think there are versions for every operating system now. Now, I've been aware of this for years, but rarely used it. I think I used it years ago and just totally forgot about it. But in the realms of ambient music and creating drones or backgrounds or anything, it is incredibly useful and a lot of fun. It is quite a little bit complicated, but in any event, someone on a YouTube channel was talking about it. I thought, yeah, yes, why don't I investigate this and get back into it and see what it's about? So that was the first thing on my list. Check out Paul's Stretch. So that's an example of something which I knew about, which I'd forgotten about, and it just fell off my radar. So the second example is just a reference. Chris, who runs Signs of Light, I shall leave a link to the video in the description. He made a mention in one of his videos about watching an old video from a guy who produces videos about VCF Rack. Now, VCF Rack, if you're not familiar with it, it's a software version of Eurorack, and it is totally free. They're paid versions, but you can get a totally free version of this, which has got dozens and dozens and dozens of Eurorack type modules, and you can link them up in the software and do all sorts of really clever things to them. This will absorb an inordinate amount of time if you are really going to get into it, but there are some people who are producing fantastic music with it, if that is an area you want to explore. But Chris said he was watching a video and he got some ideas from watching this video, which he was going to use in the video, which I've linked to in the description. Now, Chris doesn't use VCF Rack or Eurorack, or at least he doesn't in most of his videos, or the videos that I've seen it anyway. He just uses standard software synthesizers, but he was using some of the ideas which he obviously got from this video in his own work. Whether he wrote down exactly what it was that inspired him or not, I do not know. But this is another example of how watching a video, getting an idea, getting the spark of an idea, it pays to write it down so you can come back to it later on. And the third example comes from Paul Thompson, who runs Spitfire Audio, and he was talking about the octatonic scale. I shall leave a link to that video down there as well. Now, I'm familiar with the octatonic scale. I'm a relative newcomer to it. I've known about it for a few years, but it is not something I have experimented with. And seeing Paul's video made me think, that's something I would like to explore and discover more about it and how it can be used in music generation, music creation. So that has also gone on my list. Now, if I hadn't put it on the list, it would probably be a few more years until I saw another video about the octatonic scale, which made me want to go and check it out again. So much time wasted, so much time passed. So you get the idea. If you see a suggestion or a way of doing things, writing a melody or a harmony, creating beats, a mixing tip, which the YouTube is just full of, if it's something which you think this is worth exploring, then write it down so it is there, so you don't have to think, which video was that in? And, you know, if you want to go back to it, you don't have to go through all your subscriptions and check out all the videos. I have done this on occasion, and sometimes I've found that video been looking for. There is one particular video which sticks in my mind that I have not been able to find. Write these things down. Put video links in your document if you want to refer to a particular video. So that's it. Basically, it's my little aid, a memoir. It's a suggestion of something which I think everybody should be doing. And the purpose, of course, is bringing all these things together is that when you come to write a piece of music, you have a list of ideas you can explore. So I'm calling this my ideas file. If I was writing these down in a notebook, I would call it my ideas notebook. They're just ideas which you think are worth exploring and which you may use in your music creation, composition and production. You know, it makes sense. Maybe this is something you're already doing, but for some reason, this is just something which I have not done for the last umpteen years. So I thought, I'm going to make a video about this because I bet there are a lot of people who are not doing this either. And I think it's sort of missing out on one of the benefits of YouTube. It is so full of interesting ideas, interesting channels. So that's it. A really simple idea, but something which if you follow it, you will come up with. Eventually you will have a long list of interesting ideas, concepts you can dip into when you come to create music. So I hope you got some benefit from this one little idea. If you did, I think you might enjoy these videos as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you again in the next one.